that the heavy loaded critical infrastructure panel leaders from all different kind of verticals, the critical infrastructure, which runs as a backbone for any of a nation. We have the leaders from freight corridor, the certain mighty NTPC, BAIL, as well as the Indian Oil Gas Corporation. So I think while we are going to take this particular discussion forward, as a cyber resilience and infrastructure, the core and critical infrastructure, which is going to be a backbone, and as India is leveraging towards a Viksit Bharat in 2047, as the political leadership has decided it on, I think this is a way where we have to understand that which way these leaders are taking the leap, what are the use cases, what exactly their mindset, how exactly they are adapting the new technologies and the trends. So let's start with Mr. Dinanath Dinkar from DGM Information Systems and Indian Oil Corporation. As being the energy infrastructure as a high value target globally, being as a large enterprise, that how you make sure that whatsoever the cyber resilience, you approach it beyond your compliances.
Yeah, good afternoon. First, your question itself states that beyond compliance, right? Compliance is just starting point, especially in energy sector where it is a critical infrastructure. Your country runs on energy, so compliance is just a starting point. You just cannot check boxes and say we are complied. Here, what we need is operation continuity. We should be able to continue supplying oil and gas and whatever form of energy we are selling across India all the time. So now what we can do about this? Yeah, here one more important thing is, it's not just cyber security. In my opinion, in practice also, it is more about leadership and operation security, and IT is just a component of that. Because we are not just protecting data. It's not DPDP Act protecting your privacy, data privacy of customers and all. It's much beyond that. My terminals, refineries, my gas plants, they should keep operating. That is the goal. So what we are doing about this? So there are so many steps we are taking. First, we are prioritizing assets. Not all assets are of equal importance. Same thing he also discussed about prioritizing threats. So here we are saying we are prioritizing assets. Our refineries, data centers, they are most important things. So we prioritize that. Then what next? Next is we put effort. Here, like management guys will say, being a first follower is the best strategy, it is said. But in security, we cannot say that being first follower is the best strategy. We have to be the first mover because there is no second chance. If your data is gone, it is gone. If your assets are gone, it is gone. So we put extra effort to protect our assets, physical security, physical safety, as well as digital IT, what do you call it. Next comes, we also, in IT terms, backup and keeping offline data and all those things are still there. But in addition to that, we also have a backup plan. What if my data center is gone? Like in Operation Sindoor, for example, some bomb drops on my data center itself is gone. What will I do with that DR site is coming up in Bangalore and somebody is dropping another bomb there? So manual operation, how fast can I start manual operation so that energy supply is not interrupted? So these things are very important. Then comes the role of leadership. How role of leadership is very important because it's less about technology, more about people. Let's take the example of manual operation. Somebody from top is saying, चलो अब कल से register पे entry करके अब तेल बेचना शुरू कर दो. First thing, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. But for that, we have to be prepared all the time. Right now, if you come to take LPG refill, we just take your Aadhaar number, you will take your customer ID, your mobile number, feed in system, and we depend on system. System will give me all the details that you had taken 12 cylinders, you had taken subsidy, you will get subsidy or not, we have stock or not, all those things we are dependent on computer. But do we have a backup plan? What if my computer is not working? So just having cylinder and you as person, how will I connect both of you that you are my customer and you deserve to get this cylinder? Now it is up to you. You want a challan or not? Of course, you see that right now there is some emergency going on, so without challan, I can get the cylinder. Please give me the cylinder. But I should be able to identify you, give you a cylinder. For that, I have to be prepared all the time. So that is very important thing. It is less, it is easier said than done. Across India, all the officers, all the distributors and distributor staff, they have to be trained to do it manually. And this became more important during this Operation Sindoor. Then we realized that we are not as prepared as we should be. Thankfully, we didn't have to opt to this manual operation, but we realized we have to do a lot. And that is how we are preparing ourselves. And it is a continuous process. There is no end to this. Every day we upgrade ourselves, and some new thread is coming, then we upgrade ourselves, and it is a continuous process. That's it.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Dinanath. I believe that the business continuity planning, what you just emphasize on that part. So I'll go to Mr. Vivek Pathak, who is the Additional GMIT Digital Transformation Group in BAIL. So Mr. Pathak, as a manufacturing and engineering giant, how's BAIL's approach towards the cybersecurity in the era of smart manufacturing and the IoTs?
Thank you for the question. As you know, BHL is into one of the leading engineering enterprises into the power generation and power transmission manufacturing. It also is into railways and defense along with industrial automation. With the advent of Industry 4.0, there was a complete change in the manufacturing ecosystem wherein we had connected CNC machines in our shop floor. Along with that, our ERP was integrated with the MES and the PLM. And we also started supplying IIoT-based sensors along with our turbines and boilers. So for us, the air gap fallacy of the IT and OT network being air gapped got disrupted with this. And because of this, the entire attack surface landscape increased. And with the IT environment, we were only exposed to data theft, but with the OT environment also coming into the network, we were exposed to production outages and grid losses and even losses of human lives in the sites. So what we started small. We started first with the unified defense architecture, wherein we first integrated our ISMS policy, because we are 16 unit manufacturing, which are separate companies, we can say, within BHL. So all were working independently. They had their own ISO 27001 certification. They had their own DC and DR. So basically, all were working in silos, even though they were connected with MPLS. So each was a blind spot. So first thing what we did is we unified all the cybersecurity policies and the procedures into a single ISO 27001 certification for the entire BHL organization. This was the first step. The second step we did was the consolidation of the data center and the disaster recovery site, wherein all were working in silos. We now have a consolidated data center at BHL Hyderabad and a consolidated DR at BHL Bhopal. So this was starting small. Next step was with respect to securing the connected IIoT architecture, wherein immediately we enforced the IEC 62443 guidelines for industrial automation. Within this, the first step was the secure by design architecture, wherein we did the segmentation of the IT and OT infra. We moved from flat network to multi-layered zones, wherein in level 1 we had the sensors, in level 2 we have the PLCs and the SCADA, at level 3 we have the MES, at level 4 we have the enterprise IT, and then we have the DMZ between the IT and OT. So this was the second step of securing our entire IIoT architecture. The third step was immediately of releasing a tender for a state-of-art cyber SOC, which is now is in place, which has the SIM, SOAR, and the UBA along with the WAP solution. because we wanted continuous monitoring and 24/7 visibility of both our IT and OT network. Because generally the attack starts small and then it becomes large after a certain time because the attacker remains dormant. We wanted 24/7 visibility and continuous monitoring. So this cyber SOC acts as a nervous system which gets the alert from the IT environment as well as the signals from the PLCs and the SCADA. And it then gets to know the lateral movement between the IT and the OT. Then was with respect to compliance, wherein we are now compliant with all the government guidelines. The draft guidelines of the CA, which is the central authority of, which is the central electricity authority. For this also we have the guidelines in place. One of the guidelines, which is the trusted vendors for OT vendors. Here also we are trying to shortlist the vendors for our OT purchase. Then we started with the cyber resilience part, wherein now, along with taking offline backups and the other things, we are also trying to build in a third site other than the consolidated DC, DR, and now we are building a third air-gapped site, which is basically a cyber resilience vault of our crown jewels. This is what we are doing with respect to cyber resilience. The fourth point was with respect to supply chain cyber resilience, because BHL is a large enterprise, so we are working with more than 1,000+ vendors, we are working with EPC contractors, we are working with overseas collaborators. So we had to have the supply chain cyber resilience also in place. For this, we have cybersecurity clauses in all our contracts. We keep continuous track of our vendors by doing regular audits at the vendor premises. We do the continuous monitoring through our cyber SOC, which I told you, which is the state-of-art cyber SOC. And we did also the micro segmentation within the OT network also. Last but not the least is with respect to cyber awareness, wherein till now we were only creating cyber awareness for our IT environment, those employees who are using the IT applications. But now we have started even giving the cybersecurity awareness for our OT environment personnel, like the shift operators, the plant technicians, the SCADA operators. We are giving them all the necessary training, and we are also calling experts from outside to give the OT security awareness. So this is the entire gamut where we are working. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Pathak. I think quite an elaborative one, and I appreciate whatsoever the the activities you have planned, and you have explained quite in a way which has to be done. Now I'll go to Mr. Kuldeep Singh, who is head of IT NTPC Limited, NKSTPS, which is North Karampura Super Thermal Power Station. Sir, as we have seen that NTPC is always like as a flag bearer for the new technology adoption, for adapting and to look out for the new technologies and the trend, and you've been leader on that part. So I just wanted to understand, what are the challenges of securing your legacy systems, and what approach you have taken while introducing the smart grid technologies in NTPC?
Yeah, thanks for the question and good afternoon. First of all, the challenges of having a legacy system, I think most of us who are sitting here are aware of that. Why? Because let's suppose in a particular case, when I'm talking about a power plant, the life is around 25 to 30 years that we plan for, right? And the first challenge comes is that at the time these equipments were actually deployed, installed, they were not meant for the security, right? The design was very simple. Availability was the primemost criteria for them. And even at the protocol level, you see that they don't generally support Modbus, DNP. You can see, authentication, encryption generally are unheard of in that case. And now we are talking about, doing a smartization or digitalization in that case, and we are making them interact with such technologies which are today's technologies, modern technologies. So the first challenge is basically how do we bridge that gap, how we maintain that security even while we are doing the digitalization. Because in case of Maharatnas, this is not only about digitalization, it is also doing digitalization while not doing disruption, right? That is very important. Second thing is that in most of the cases, as we start, getting connecting OT to IT, IT to IIoT, and OT to IIoT and IoT also, the attack surface is exponentially increasing, right? At this stage of awareness amongst all the participants, and at this juncture where we all are here, we are talking about AI and cloud and private 5G and everything. We just cannot be oblivious that these kind of interventions need to be there. And they have to be there because there is certain requirement and we need to innovate and modernize. But again, at the other side, how do we take up those challenges of ensuring security as well as continuous availability? That is the hallmark of critical infrastructure that needs to be seen. That is the second challenge, you can say. Third thing is we have to abide by a lot many guidelines. That is not wrong, I am saying, but we have guidelines from CA, we had guidelines from CERTIN, we have guidelines from NCI, PC, IB. There are n number of guidelines, right? The point is that when we are doing all this, how we are tackling those compliances, that is really important. And lastly, I would say that other than these challenges, we also need to see that the vendor ecosystem, the supply chain management part, the vendors who are supplying the equipments to us, for example, how do they are doing the firmware updation. Actually, if they are ultimately releasing any kind of updates, are they looking at the security at all? Are those chips being tested for any backdoors? I mean, how this is all being seen, how the SBOM, as CERTIN has got some guidelines, being integrated into those criteria. So all those things also we need to see. So those are the challenges, I would say.
Thanks, Mr. Kuldeep. I think you mentioned about CERTIN and the guidelines which made by them. So let's go to directly the person who's having that particular role in CERTIN by Mighty. So we are going to have Mr. Vijay Jindal, Joint Director IT and Scientist D CERTIN Mighty. So along with that, what Mr. Kuldeep has mentioned about, but as CERTIN, the threat intelligence is like as a primitive, the part whenever that any of an attack is coming on their side. So how exactly your role is that the threat intelligence sharing and national level coordination play in reducing the impact during attacks, and specifically with the Maharatnas?
Thank you, Gaurav, for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I just want to talk a very basic level, like what is the role of threat intel. So, role of the threat intel is a very crucial in any organization for preventing any kind of attack. Now, when we'll say about any cyber attacks, so every day we are seeing that the attacks are increasing day by day. It is not reducing, right? So if I will go 10 years back, our budget of the cyber security was very less. Now every organization is looking after the cyber security and the budget has drastically increased. Still, the attacks are not reducing, it is increasing, right? So what is the root cause behind that? That the attackers, our attackers are too smart, or our systems are going weaker day by day. So what is exactly happening? I just want to talk on this line and the role of threat intel into that. So first of all, we'll talk about the individual security, like currently the various financial frauds are happening, right? So the attackers, whoever is doing that, they are not the technical persons, right? They are just asking the OTP to you only, asking to you to click on any malicious links, and you are only installing the malicious APKs, then only they are able to do these financial frauds. So same, if I will talk about the organizations, so we'll not talk about the various fancy terms, like we'll say we are having all the solutions, we are having the SIM solution, SOAR solution, EDR, XDR, everything is in place. Still, the attacks are happening. And we are thinking the devices are failed, they are not able to detect. So many times when we are going for the incident, when we are monitoring the logs, we are seeing that nothing we found in the logs. So what is exactly happening? So the thing is that we have to have that visibility of our architectures. When we are saying the visibility, I will not say only the endpoints that we are having these endpoints. So we'll just see having the visibility of that endpoints. We should have the idea of our architecture also, that how the actually applications are working. So when like we are having any web application, any internet exposed application, so how the data is actually flowing, that is very important. So when we are going for any incident, as you were talking about SBOM and all, right? So when we ask the organizations to provide the SBOM, many of them even don't know what is SBOM, right? So when we don't know what all the ingredients used in our software, how we can protect it? We don't know what kind of JavaScript library is used in my software. We don't know what is the JSON used in my software. We don't know what Python libraries, Java libraries has been used. So Log4j is the big example of this. When the Log4j vulnerability came, at initial stage, organizations even don't know that they was using the Log4j, right? Because we don't know in any Java software we was using that. So we should have that visibility in that how data is actually flowing. Like when anyone is accessing our front end, so how like he can reach to my database. So now attackers are not doing any hacking and all. Majorly the attacks we are seeing, it is not will not say the very sophisticated attacks. Many attacks are very common attacks only. There is one firm, OS, they claims like they collected the data of 5 lakh organizations, and 90% above organizations was vulnerable to the top 10 vulnerability only, right? Whatever the top 10 very common vulnerabilities, talk about the SQL injection, like any breaking of the authentication, server-side request forgery. So all these attacks are common. Reason being, we are actually not well aware about the architecture of our application, see how the data is flowing, how I can reach to the database server, right? So actually hackers are logging as a normal legitimate user only. Then they are just exploiting their privileges, what they can do into the system. They are trying to reach your database and will escalate the privilege and will exfiltrate the data. So their things are happening. So now the threat intel is playing the very big role into this. The role of the threat intel, like if the sectors, all the sectors will be connected together. Now attacker is not targeting a single organization. Of course, when they want to take any financial sector, they will scan all the organizations. Then the weakest point, wherever he will found, he will try to attack that organization. So if that particular organization will share that intel with all other financial bodies, then it will be a early warning to them. They can also see that whether this attack is coming to them or not. Now, when we'll say about the threat intel, we should not be confused with the IPs and hashes only, right? Generally, we are sharing the IPs and hashes and we are saying that that is enough. So it is looking like that if there is a thief, normally I am just telling that he is wearing this particular t-shirt, this color t-shirt or this color shirt only. So we should know the tactics and techniques and procedures of the attacker. So that we have to share, because changing the IPs and hashes is very easy for any attacker. So when we are making this kind of ecosystem where we are sharing the threat intel to protect our IT infra, so then we have to mainly focus on the TTPs tools the attackers are using, because it is a big pain for the attackers to change their ways, change their tools, right? So that ecosystem we should have. So Certain is also providing the threat intel to the organization. So there is a one platform, you can just subscribe them and you will get all the intel regarding whatever we are processing in CERT. So that is the one thing. And when we are sharing the intel, so that intel should also be very timely. That also matters. When anyone share the intel 30 days, after 30 days of the attack, so it might not be that relevant to me, right? So intel we are sharing should be relevant enough, it should be timely, it should be my sector specific only. Then only I will get that benefit. So ultimately, I will say that we should have the great understanding of our architecture, any of the architecture, any of the applications that we are using, how the data is actually flowing, and the threat intel actually plays a very big role to prevent these attacks. It will give me the time for taking the decisions and for tailored defense. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Jindal. I can vouch on that whatsoever. The rigorous procedures of the certain to select any of a threat intelligence platform has been involved into those particular stated activities. So, very best of the wishes for taking it forward. Thanks for your inputs. Now we are moving on to Mr. Alok Shankar Pandey, who's a Group GM IT and CISO DFCC India Limited. Sir, pleasure to have you on the panel. My question would be for the most talkative point right now in this week itself, that's related with AI. So how is AI being considered for predictive security monitoring, and especially in your transformative infrastructure and within your department, sir?
Thank you, Gaurav. Interesting question. I hope don't mess it up like the Galgotias. And before I start, disclaimer, views expressed are personal, so that Galgotia doesn't get disclaimer again.
Sure, sir, sure.
And nowhere reflects views of the organization that I have served either in the past or I serve presently. So I'll come straight to AI. AI at the end of the day is a tool. AI is gaining prominence in the cyber sector because the tactics, techniques, and procedures that were being talked about AI is a subset of that which is being used today. So if AI is what is being used to attack, you will not be able to withstand the attack with something which is traditional. So per force, you need to upgrade yourself, or you need to upgrade your defense mechanisms to suit the AI attack vectors or threat vectors, whichever way you would want to call it. The challenge with AI defense is you got to train it in a particular business environment. There are a whole lot of products which exist today which claim to have these capabilities. But of all the 1 million threat intel that my friend Vijay would have shared over here over the last 1 month, if you break them down in silos, you'll find certain segments of them are relevant to a particular sector. They're constantly targeting that sector. You need to look at a defense mechanism which is able to first, in terms of reconnaissance, pick it up. Who is targeting me? Then probably do a kind of study on what is the TTP that it uses. Once it has done that, and it has observed the periodicity over a period of time, attack pattern, then you can probably leverage it. So it has a significant learning curve, which brings to the next big challenge, which is understanding of your own ecosystem and the entire cyber value chain. People are sitting in places of power or places of decision making where they do not understand either the TTP part of it, the tactics, technique, or procedure, or even the people, process, technology part of it. So that becomes a big challenge because their primary objective is business. The business should go on. If the business goes on, security has a relevance. Not realizing that security is a very low probability but a very high impact risk. So given the fact that they have not seen this on the horizon till now, they generally tend to say, "Aaj tak nahi hua to aage kya hoga?" So that is how it is put to a side. So that much insofar as the AI in defense is concerned. Now coming to the next challenge. My friend over here told me S-bomb. How do I generate a S-bomb for AI solution? There are ways, but how do you come to a final S-bomb for an AI based solution? Try getting a S-bomb for SAP. The most reputed OEM in this country, which makes 8,000 crores a year. Get a S-bomb for SAP, let's start from there. If you bark up, and with no disrespect to any organization or institution, if you bark up the wrong tree and hype up the requirement beyond its manageability, you will end up asking for compliances which cannot be met. If you call something as your crown jewel, what are your crown jewels, let's say, for me in railways? They are proprietary OEM protocols who refuse to talk between two products of same competing companies. Get me the S-bomb for it. You are not going to get it. So there are dead ends, especially with respect to critical infrastructure, either and which requires intervention at the highest level. Now get me S-bomb for Office 365. So at the highest level, you need to say, yes, you need to do business in this country. These are my compliances. S-bomb, don't share with all and sundry, but please share with certain. Please share with mighty, so that at least we are sure of the product that you get into my country. And I'm sure of what additional risk that you push in. Specifically with respect to OEMs of foreign origin, patches that you push over the air, we need a mechanism to be able to evaluate what the patch does. In the earlier years, you would be familiar, we had this, in the network, we had these parameters where you would say EAL levels, and then you graduated onto the NDPP profiles. That was as on date of that hardware and that OS on which it was evaluated. If the version that you're taking which had a next patch, you are doomed. That certificate was of no utility. So it was only to manipulate the market and procurement. And that is why I say if business has to go on, that procurement is essential. If security has to be dealt at the level that we want to be, and the challenges or the threat that it poses, the intervention has to be at the highest level. People doing businesses should be left to do business. And there should be an ecosystem. If you ask me, it should start right from the NSS office and end at the telecom service providers. Because that is where your connectivity ends. After that is your business starts. So all this threat intel that is being circulated to all and sundry today, why not just to the TSPs? Because it comes with a star mark. Suspicious behavior, may like to evaluate before you block. So nobody blocks. So much effort, so much time, energy, everything that is going into the system, a whole organization is being so proactive, ends up reacting because when something happens, people rush to them. So the first part was very small. The second part, my apologies. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the inputs. I think I in sync with whatsoever the points you have said, and off the record we will speak on the session itself. Now I'll come towards the industry. Vinayak, who is a senior manager, sales engineering at Rapid7. I think the use case based question I'll ask you that from the attacker perspective, being as a Rapid7, who is like as a leader in vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, and now into the CTAM, what do you think that the most common weakness you found in Indian enterprise and specifically in PSU sectors, where those particular weaknesses where attackers can penetrate immediately?
Thank you so much. So I think so I have been listening to the leaders over here, right, speaking about how they are securing the infrastructure and the common terms which are like identifying the attack surface, identifying the critical crown jewels, contextualizing the threat intelligence at a various levels. So it helps the respective sector, respective vertical as well. Okay. And when we talk about threat intelligence, sometimes the thought gets lost again, as I think the sir managed, only related to the IP address or the IOCs or the hashes, right? The scrutiny should go deeper, right? So from our perspective, and if you ask me, last year we published a report on initial access broker vectors, okay? What does that mean? So what are the initial pointers the criminals are looking for? They are looking for weak users. They are looking for weak access. They are looking for loosely configured resources or the legacy resources. These are the basic things that they're looking for. If you ask me, in my last 15 years of cybersecurity practice, we used to hack 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Now the attackers are logging in, okay? So that is the current scenario. So risk assessment is very, very much important because definitely you have preventive solutions in place. The only point that I would love to make is reduce the playground for criminals, okay? Preventive solutions are wonderful. They do amazing job, but then there is a lot of things that they cannot cover, okay? Nobody confirms on the 100%. So the whole point is to reduce the risk and make sure the contextualization from a threat intelligence point of view or risk intelligence point of view, okay, is being scrutinized. It goes deeper than maybe a couple of levels. Yeah.
Thanks, Vinayak. In continuation, a small question that even like as the leaders been sitting over here, they are deploying all the particular infrastructures, DCDR, BCP, the technologies, tools, zero trust, everything is well in place. But then why after every 11 seconds there is a breach in the infrastructure? How would you address them on that part? What they should do that to reduce that risk?
So I will take an analogy or metaphor over here, right? And normally I use it very well with all the people I speak about. So it's like if I'm traveling to Ladakh, we all know it's a high altitude mountainous region, okay? Lot of different health factors which affects it. It doesn't matter how many sweaters, how many warm wears, okay, how many masks we carry with ourselves. If we are having a weakness within our respiratory system, it's going to affect us. Now, when we talk about an issue, the preventive measure is to have a prevention-based approach in place, okay? But then we are slowly moving towards the next step. I think so certain organizations have moved, certain organizations are still in the process. So the next process is to make sure the issue that occurred should not happen in future. And we should also have a vision, any relevance related to the respective issue should be stopped in the future. That's where the risk assessment comes into picture. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Vinayak, for that. I'll come to Ankit. Ankit, industry has the presentation you have shown towards a private 5G. So if all the leaders as a critical infrastructure, they would have a concern on the security, how you address on that network?
Yeah, so one of the fortunate thing we are playing with in the private 5G enabling layer, because all this legacy was there were IP tables and all the IT, OT issues like constantly that I heard, right? We could meet 90% of those issues by simply putting a layer which is air gapped to begin with and the air interface which is secure. So we have done IT, OT convergence successfully with one of the largest copper processing plants, and on the panel we know who it is, right? We have ensured all of this works in a reliable, wireless, jitter-free network, right? There are no wires to be cut by someone. That's what we have done. So straight away, you start with a layer which is secure by design of it. It's literally away from everything, right? However, what we also did is work with the MPLS ring outside. And we have worked on solutioning with IOCL, we have worked with NTPC, and they're interesting problems, right? Like, for example, they need to keep 6 months of user activity data at the edge, audit logs. We are able to deliver that. And again, I say we were fortunate because we were born in the cloud native era. So we are starting there, right? So we don't have that issue. And by the way, I should not take the credit fully to us. between the end user and us, we work very closely, and we always do with solution integrators, system integrators, who have seen that particular plant from the copper era to Wi-Fi eras, and they have those trusted relations of 25 plus years. We born in the cloud native era cannot just ignore that legacy. So we work with them, solution around that, and cybersecurity, we have multiple partners who work on the IoT layers, etc., etc. So they bring those interesting solutions, and our job as network builders and executors in weeks to give them a platform to interoperate very quickly. So we do that, right? Yeah.
Thanks, Ankit. I'll come to Dr. Dinanath for the next question. In IOCL, that has the unique challenges. What are those when you are securing the geographically distributed assets like refineries, pipelines, and your terminals?
This is a very interesting question. So before I answer this question, I would like to give a picture of the kind of assets we have and the kind of dispersion of our assets. So we have 10 refineries, starting from Bongaigaon to Cochin, 42,000 retail outlets, petrol pumps across India, 15,000 LPG distributors, and 500 plus oil installations, oil depots, terminals, gas plants, and all. And it's spread across India. Now, when you have assets dispersed all over India, and they all are digitally connected, so there are unique risks, not single, there are multiple risks. First risk I'll talk about, your assets are at remote locations, where even accessing the asset is not easy. I will give example of Car Nicobar. Car Nicobar is an island in Andaman group of islands, which is basically Air Force base. There we have only 3 offices, Air Force, 4 offices, Air Force, Indian Oil, SBI, and BSNL. For obvious reasons, only 4. If you, we have only one person from Indian Oil in Indian Oil location, SBI ka 1, BSNL ka 1, it is single man location. If somebody has to go on leave, then second person has to replace him as what you call a reliever. To get a reliever entry to Car Nicobar, you have to get permission from President's office. So you apply to President's office, yeah, so-and-so person is ill, he is coming back to Port Blair for this hospitalization, and this person will go for 2 days or 3 days. From Delhi, you will get the permission, then that person go. So that kind of remote access of the location, there your asset is there. Just imagine how will you ensure security of that asset. When we are talking about data center all, then you have caging, security guards, dogs, maybe, we are not having dogs. So those kinds of security you have for protecting your data center. Same thing, same data center is digitally connected with the location which is in Hasimara jungle, where your digital assets are easily accessible, your contractors, your sweeper, anybody can access that. So you are vulnerable. So what will you do? First, thanks to certain, they have placed so many guidelines, and there are certain empaneled auditors are coming and doing audit, VAPT audit to physical asset audit, and everything they are doing. That is obviously helping us to identify the risks. But that is not the end. And another problem we have is state-sponsored cyber attack. State-sponsored cyber attack is more critical. See, here you cannot just identify the person and contact that government to take action. That person itself is sponsored by that state. What will you do? That person is freely attacking your infrastructure. So all you can do is protect yourself. Now, is it possible to protect yourself all the time? Vinayak also mentioned that you have threat from internal users because of their ill intention as well as unawareness. And here, my internal users are also contractors who are unpad, going and pulling out the tar. You give him 100 rupees and ask him to do certain things, plug this snooping device, he'll go and plug it. And you'll never come to know, and your entire asset is at risk. So here what we can do? Obviously, we are taking all those technical actions we are taking. I will not discuss that, all technical people are here. What else we can do? We are focusing on preventing cascading of risk. If one, first identify the risk. If some incident is happening, identify it as fast as possible and isolate that. It should not affect your other operation, other locations. And here we have one more problem that I missed to explain. Moving assets, moving physical assets. Apart from all those assets I mentioned, we have close to 1 million moving assets, that tankers and other things which are moving on the road. It is not posing risk to us only, it is posing risk to you as well. Just suppose one tanker blasts somewhere, what will happen? That area is gone. So across India, every corner of India, you are at risk because of us. So you have to be more careful, not just because we are Maharatna or government entity. Even if we are private entity, we have, for example, Reliance or Nayada, they also have to be equally responsible and careful to protect their assets, not for themselves, for the citizens. So one very important thing we are doing is, we should be able to prevent cascading the risk. Next, if I identify that there is a risk, I have prevented cascading the risk, then what will we do? Here we have certain things that we cannot discuss here in open. So those actions we can take. Now coming to data center, here we have all state-of-the-art security devices, security software, security people like him, helping us sitting in our data center and taking preventive action, as well as when some incident happens, after reporting to certain, taking action to fill the gap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dinanath. I'll come to Mr. Vivek. How do you align the business leadership with cybersecurity investment in manufacturing ecosystem, and specifically when the finance departments are always look for a ROI on those investments?
For this, presently we try to shift the cyber risk to a business risk. Presently, BHL has around 2 lakh crores of orders which have to be executed in the next 5 years. So, whatever is the cyber risk, we try to shift it as a business risk in terms of loss of profit, loss of turnover. These are the penalties which would be enforced. There would be delays in the supplies to defense and transportation. There would be large LDs if we do not supply the components in time. So basically it becomes a board level talk instead of an IT talk. So this is the first mechanism where we try to bring the server room close to the boardroom. The second aspect is with respect to how we quantify the risk. For this also we make presentations wherein with the present cyber security scenarios, geopolitical tensions, we show them what can be the national level ramifications if we do not implement a cyber security tool. We give them some figures like there would be a probability, for example, of 20% of a cyber attack on this unit, which would lead to a loss of so much of the turnover. So this is the second mechanism where we try to push the board for giving us the budget for the cybersecurity tool. The third aspect is with respect to, we tell them if you want to bid for multi-billion contracts, nowadays cybersecurity is not a differentiator, it has become essential. Like we tell them these are not just tick boxes. Now cybersecurity certifications, your compliances are now prerequisites if you want to bid for huge contracts. So this is the third mechanism. The fourth mechanism, which my senior colleague in the morning, ED from GAIL told with respect to the risk committee. In BHL also we have a board level risk committee to whom we give them the management review on the cyber security posture. Like give them the statistics with respect to the major and minor incidences which occurred in the last quarter, and how what tools were used to prevent them, how many external and internal audits were conducted, what were the major and minor NCs, and how we closed those NCs. We talked to them in terms of cyber KPIs like the reduction in MTTD and MTTR. So this is also one of the mechanism in which the board level risk committee itself is involved in understanding the issues and giving us the budget. Then this is what I feel. This is also a disclaimer from my side that the present management itself is very liberal, because over the past 3 to 4 years we have implemented a lot of initiatives at BHL. So the board level management itself talks with respect to cyber security in town hall meetings. They participate in the cyber drills, and they also reward the employees who are most vigilant in terms of cyber security awareness. So these were 4 or 5 mechanisms which we use as a cyber security professional to force our top management to give us the budget.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Mr. Pathak. I'll come to Mr. Kuldeep. Now, as per your view, what should be the next priority for cybersecurity policy in the energy sector?
So, in my view, I mean, this is a big ask, basically. I mean, when we are talking about policy perspective, there are already some very good guidelines that are available in India, and those are from CERT-In, those are from CA. Cybersecurity guideline specifically came in 2021 from CA for power sector also. And there are sectoral certs, and a lot of things are being done and policies are in place. But the point is that I think now it has to change from a compliance-based perspective to resilience-based perspective. And more on the actions and where the things are not working actually. So, I mean, other than the Maharatnas that are sitting here are not part of this forum, but they are there. We have to think of this whole system as a whole made up by the parts, right? Whatever is the weakest shall be hit first. So let's suppose if BHEL is doing very good in cybersecurity, our NTPC is having very good defenses, that doesn't mean that Indian power sector is safe just because this is being done. Let's be very candid about it, that the kind of guideline and compliances that we are asking for as of now, many of the organizations are even, in my area, if I say the power sector, power generators, they don't have an inkling of that, how to do that. The thing is that in policy, the hand-holding thing also have to come up. We cannot expect an overnight upgradation of the cyber infra in case of OT, not even in IT for that matter, right? So that part has to come up, and how that needs to be ensured, that part also needs to be looked into. So for that matter, like we have been hearing about the board level discussion regarding cybersecurity, which is generally not very prevalent in the CPSU or government sector. People still go by the way, okay, fine. I mean, you are doing security, you should do it. Maintain the compliances with whatever organizations you are getting the guidelines from. But other than that, whether the board actually understands is it needed or not, that part also needs a look into. So for that, I mean, thoda krantikari vichar bol sakte, but point is that the board has to directly interact with the government sector also. At some point of time, say in 1 year or 2 years, they need to sit together, and these guys need to talk to each other. Actually, what are the things that we want to get done, right? Rather than CISOs, going to board and explaining with a good, very beautiful PPT that these are the KPIs, this you need to do, this is the budget that I want. The thing is that this has to become part of a culture. For that culture, we need to get some things in policy also. Now, the third thing which is missing in most of the cases is that the liability, accountability part, it is mostly on the buyer. In our case, if we talk about, say, OT equipments, for example, I am talking about RLU or a PLC, right? The thing is that the organization has to have such a procurement policy where I have to ask for, again to quote the same thing, S-bomb, that is one. Okay, but other than that, there are so many other things also, right? You will get it tested from somewhere. There is an agency for that, right? There will not be any kind of backdoors that are built in, right? How exactly you have audited, whether source code has been audited or not. There is a black box testing or not. If it is a web application, that is also there. So those things are being ensured, or the organization is accountable for that. The thing is that they should be part of the problem and the solution, but the vendors also has to come up in a big way in this sense. Why? Because all of this cannot be ensured in spirit, not in letter, in spirit, by the organizations only. So there also the policies are sometimes talking about it, but they are not very vociferous and not strongly mandating that part.
Right.
So that is really important.
I'm just, sorry to cut through. I'm just amending few phrases in my question, so you can continue with your answers as well. Do you think that the policies are sufficient? The present policies are sufficient for the energy sector? And like as emerging trends like blockchain, the quantum, then AI, then ML, and then the threat vector is quite leveraging day by day. So the present policies in energy sector is sufficient, or how frequently that could be amended or that should be reevaluated?
So very good point. In fact, I would say, as we talk about policies in general, they are directions mostly, right? And technologies will continue coming. And as you rightly said, quantum already, people are getting aware of, and we are talking about quantum resistant encryptions, right? And we are talking about post-quantum and other things. But the thing is, yes, in policy, a short answer, they are not sufficient as of now. They need to be modified. And that's what it should be done every year or so, just to, take care of everything that is going on in between. But the point is that what I am trying to hit here is that just for namesake, some policy is there and then some compliance is happening. We have to pull our socks to see whether we are actually doing it, right? So that part is really important, I would say. And lastly, I would say that, the audit-based compliances that we are doing, there are 2 or 3 very good things that I have seen. Certain is also doing pretty a lot, and then National Cybersecurity Secretariat also. We are doing red teaming exercises, national cyber exercises. That is a really good practice. Now we need to further, inform it with actual real-time applications and whether we can take it to the actual plant. And probably not the last, but the IT-OT part. As of now, people talk about OT and IT as though they are still separate. But the reality is that everywhere they are intermingling. Convergence is already there, most of which we may be blind in most of the sense, right? So the thing is that this also has to come up and be reflected in policy. We cannot just say you need to be air gapped. No. You have to say, fine, if you are talking about Purdue model, there is a 4.5 and 5. There need to be a DMZ. After that, IT is there, right? So that way, these policies need to reflect the reality of today, rather than, just penalizing the organizations on one side that you are not compliant, and on the other side that you are not doing enough for the modernization.
Right. Perfect, Mr. Kuldeep. I think it's a ever-evolving scenario where the cybersecurity practices and policies need to be adhered to. I'll come to Mr. Jindal. What is your suggestions for the organizations, specifically from the perspective of certain, that how they can improve the readiness before incidents rather than during the crisis response.
Yeah, first, S-bomb is really discussed a lot, so I just want to come again on S-bomb. So, when we are saying like we are procuring Office 365 and how we can get the S-bomb. So, I just want to say S-bomb is again guideline from CERTIN, and not only S-bomb, it is H-bomb also, hardware bill of material, AI bomb also, AI bill of material, right? So, that's why it's not an enforcement that you have to have this thing, right? At least we all together can try for S-bomb, even from the foreign companies also, that will create some impact, right? Now, again, when at least we are developing the application in-house, we all, means in government sector, of course, we are having inbuilt solutions, various inbuilt solutions. Are we having the visibility of that inbuilt solution? Means what all are using? We are just looking that according to the UI, it should be attractive, all the functionality should be working. We are just hiring the vendors and developing any kind of solutions. So we are actually not aware what all the ingredients or any third-party tools they are using. What we are doing, they are developing, and after then we are just doing the VAPT, right? That is the enough. So post-audit is not sufficient. This is the guideline of CERTIN with this name only, that post-audit is not sufficient. Your security cannot be a footnote, right? It is be in whole SDLC, security should be there. Now, coming to the, again, the how like we can prepare before the incident. So now we cannot say any organization is 100% protected, that the attack will not happen. Of course, on some bad day, it may happen, right? So we should prepare before that. So the basic principles again remain the same. We can use any framework, NIST framework or any SANS framework or ISO framework for the preparation for business continuity. But all the basic principles have remained same. That first of all, we should have the complete segregation of our applications, that whatever we are using, what all are the essential service that we cannot that cannot be a down, right? And then important services, any third deferred services that we can offer to if it will go down. So that segregation should be there. Everyone should have the understanding that what must go on and what can be stopped. So the second thing is the authority. That is the most complex one. Whenever any incident happens, we all rush. We don't know exactly who will shut down the services, how we can continue the services. So all these authorities should be clearly defined. Escalation metrics should be clearly defined. And then the third thing we can say, like we also can have some kind of templates, that if any attacks will happen, then how we inform to the stakeholders, how we'll inform to the public, or how we'll inform this information in our internal also. So that notes, any template should also be there, so that in last moment there should be no any misinformation. And fourth thing again will come to that, we should have the understanding of our applications. That is the most important thing. But if we don't know how the actually things are working, how we will protect it? So that is the most concern when we are saying the S-bomb and all. Ultimately, we are believing on the foreign technologies only, right? We are, when we are talking about Java, .NET, Microsoft IS Server, any React, Node.js, all these are the foreign technologies only. We are developing our solutions on that only. This is the true, right? So we actually don't know what is the vulnerability in IIS server, right? What all can be vulnerabilities there. I will just talk one example. A few days back, one vulnerability came in the React, right? So the attacker was very easily able to send the malicious payload by using the React endpoint, right? So we all are using the React almost, right, for front-end developing. So what we can do in that, right? So at least we should have the understanding that these are the things that may happen, and we should be prepared for that. So preparedness is very important before the incident. We should focus on all these 4 points that I talked about. Yeah,
Thanks, Mr. Vijay. In continuation, one more question. What do you think from certain perspective that, like you mentioned, that few foreign applications we are developing the codes, but nowadays that the most of the GPTs are generating those codes. Now, majorly that the software vendors will release certain applications which has been compiled by the GPTs itself. Now, any plans to have a policy on those particular applications?
So, regarding that, means we again have the understanding the whatever the things they are using whenever anyone is developing the application. So, what all the things means of course when they are using the AI and all also. So there are various vulnerabilities in AI that is coming now. Means attackers are again using AI also, and the there are various vulnerabilities in AI models also. The attackers are doing the prompt injection. That was very common in software field also. Again, it is very common in AI field also. So we should have the complete visibility of that. That only I will say.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. I think majorly the intentions, many of the times the applications I have seen, that the rug intentional code also had been injected, right, at the time of manufacturing of that application. So tools and the technologies are there to detect that as well. But I don't know that in critical infrastructures how that has been detected, what are the plans. So far I have not seen. So I just wanted to understand that if anyone is planning to have, it's open for all of you that if anyone is working on that scenario. No, not yet.
Gaurav, it is not possible.
Not possible.
Critical infrastructure.
I'll
again,
come on that part, sir. I'll come on that particular part. Yeah.
come to-
It's a rug intentional code. If any of a vendor, software application vendor, might have written out on that particular application and have published into your infrastructure, have you planned to detect that as well? There are many of the software applications which has the software code as a rug intention. Rug intention, like it's been like as a man in the middle, or any of a source code which has been directed towards a third party. So any information which is going towards the third, the destination or any other portion. So any way you have looked into that, or might be you have encountered such applications.
So that is what I was saying. I'll just add to it. What one can do is, since it is in particular sectors is OEM specific, so that is one. When you're talking of rug injected code, what you can at best do is look at the application behavior.
Yeah.
Heuristics kind of data. So what the application is intending to do. The fundamentals do not change irrespective of the way the application has been developed.
Right.
So if you focus on the heuristics part of the application, you have a solution there. There's a second part of the thing that one can look at, which can give a probable solution to this, is that whenever you are compiling a code, which not many people actually see, the response time can be seen.
Yeah.
Apart from the triggers, the response time increases. So if you look at that parameter also, but that requires very close supervision. You have to be very mindful that something of this kind can happen. And this can only happen maybe in the pre-rollout first stage.
Right.
If it gets injected subsequently, you have a challenge. If it comes through a patch, you have a challenge. You'll not come to know until either you are on a CTEM model.
Yeah.
CTEM does that
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
For the matter of fact that it does that continuous monitoring portion. CTEM does that. Or when you do the next audit, if it is active at that point in time. So probabilistically, again, very low probability, very difficult to find.
Right. Sir, coming back to your question, your turn. It's a generic one that with due respect to all the leaders, the investments, the initiatives that the critical infrastructure in India has used and built up from last couple of years. There was a report in a media as well as on a newspapers itself that net about to 80-85% of the critical infrastructures are not been able to secure themselves, right? And even I have gone onto the social media and have written about it. What do you think that is it that the way this initiatives which already have been taken, it's going to take some time, or is it like that we are far away that to secure 100% or at least 80-9% of our critical infrastructures?
My take is slightly different on it. critical infrastructure is much different than conventional IT. So when you talk of the threat landscape which is applicable to IT is not applicable to critical infrastructure. And let me put it in as emphatic terms as I can, because the critical infrastructure has got the type of equipment. There are entry barriers to be playing with critical infrastructure. You can't get a Siemens switch on the fly. If you want to go and buy, you'll not get it. Right. So the entry barriers to the access first. Even if you get the access to that, you don't have access to the thought process, the TTP by which that use-oriented infrastructure has been created. It is particular to that, but it is directed and particularly for the use of that particular equipment in that particular manner or a business context. So you need to have the business context of what it is doing. That is the second entry barrier. Right. The third entry barrier is the skill set in itself. Now, who has this potential? This potential is available, if you ask me, not below state or big conglomerates of a particular threshold and above, who have the wherewithal to actually have a force or launch a cyber attack on this kind of infrastructure. That is the first. So directly, indirectly, willy-nilly, we are saying that there is a state involvement which is getting involved. Now, look at the infrastructure itself. The infrastructure was purpose-built. So it was very little compute, very little storage. It was so purpose-built that it could probably go back to our engineering days, 8086 kind of program. They are also on the higher side of the PLC that many equipment use. So that kind of, how do you inject a malicious code in it? It doesn't have that memory. Even if it has the memory, how do you execute it? So to some extent, again, as I said, if we overhype beyond a point, it loses its context. Yes. So to some extent, they are immune by their design. Yeah. So this is insofar as what was happening till now, or something that we are calling legacy today. What is, again, and I focus on things that are in my area of control, area of influence. What is going on today is my area of influence. Yeah. The equipment that is going to be inducted today is somehow being treated as a dual use kind of technology, and everyone has started from the nuclear use case, dual peaceful and war. Here also dual use kind of thought processes are going on, where one says, okay, what's the harm in populating the OT with some more compute, with some more storage, and then these proponents of IT-OT integration. Yes. For me, 30 years armed forces, मुझसे security किसी ने नहीं की है, physical and technological. Air gap is a no-go. You should not breach air gap at any cost. What are you achieving by breaching air gap today, even with data diodes? Dashboards? What other insights do you get? You don't get any other insights beyond business, actionable business insights. No. Some here and there, that's all. But air gap should never be breached. And if you don't breach air gap, you have reduced your attack surface significantly. Now, from supposing, and it's a given fact that everything has, you can't ensure that kind of sanctity as was brought out by Kuldeep. OEM support from sitting somewhere trans borders, trans continents. So, if that access is available, what do I do? So there is an internet, the OT is accessible and state has the wherewithal to access that. If I can contain what is done on the compute and storage on the present set of equipment that is being procured, if I can put safeguards around monitoring that, I would have achieved a lot of OT safeguarding. And one of the best ways, as I see it, or whatever limited I have seen in last 7-10 years of OT specific exposure, is that no OEM is going to share his code with you. So you're not going to be able to do VA-PT in any case. VA you will not be able to do in any case. Come to PT, you will not do it yourself because it is so critical to your business. So if it comes down, so VA-PT, out of question. What happens? Only thing what the attacker does is reconnaissance, do the same reconnaissance in the name of defense. And what you can do there is do a deep packet inspection. Deep packet inspection paired with heuristic behavior. So when you look at heuristics and deep packet inspection, now you know, here is a device, in legitimate circumstances, it behaves like this. And this is the pattern in which it behaves. In not so normal circumstances, it will probably behave, because it is intended to do the same thing. It will probably behave in a minorly different manner or the same manner, but in a different pattern. Pick up that pattern, flag it for review by a right person. And again, critical cannot be left to AI. There has to be a man in the middle to take control of what has been flagged, what has not been flagged.
Perfect. So I just to summarize that is it just only that the certain challenges is not fulfilling by the infrastructure, the critical infrastructure, which is a backbone for any of a nation's a building or the development size. So still we have yet to achieve that threshold that to go into like as to get that particular dream of Viksit Bharat.
Absolutely. If you have to be Viksit Bharat, you have to ensure that your bottom lines don't, for Bharat, the bottom lines don't drain away.
Right.
You are a 4.3 trillion economy, you don't become a 3 trillion economy tomorrow. That is the bottom line for Bharat.
That's true.
So if that is to be ensured, you have to ensure that you don't get exploited, and your critical infrastructure, or for that matter, CPSEs, are consumer-facing organizations. They serve consumers at large. IOCL, if they are down for 2 hours, there will be mayhem in the city.
That's true.
No petrol or no fuel. So critical infrastructures, public sector undertakings being down has an impact which can change governments.
Yes.
So to that extent, one should be cognizant of the fact that the challenge that it poses. If you do not protect it, and with the state getting involved, if you do not focus on protecting it, you are only waiting for the inevitable to happen. We had a cybersecurity policy which dates down 2013. The next version has not come up yet.
Right.
It's still being discussed. Sectoral regulators are now getting active. The first sectoral regulator which got active was BFSI. Why? Because people started losing money, and people losing money actually translates to loss of votes.
True.
So let's be very candid about it. So people
Right.
started losing money, the sector regulator started. You had an incident in the power sector, the sectoral regulator started. Other critical infrastructure, sectoral regulators are yet to take birth.
Yes. Yes.
So that is the biggest challenge. If you have to synchronize all your actions at the aim that you want to achieve. And if
Right.
2047 is Viksit Bharat, you have to, and if you are going to make policies which are to be reviewed every year, then they are SOPs.
Perfect.
Your policies have to be time agnostic. Time agnostic in at least limited sense of time.
Right, right. I think it's a Navratnas that they are leading by an example, by taking all this the stated infrastructure up to the mark where the rest of the PSUs and the public sector units they are trying to reach out to that particular race as well. But I've seen that now the more like as that the industry is looking up to, like, and the certain use cases are taken from the Navratnas itself, and then to say that, you know, these are the particular use cases or the particular infrastructure already been deployed, developed, and now they are leading that way itself. Thank you so much, Mr. Pandey. You want to say something, Ankit?
Yeah, I would not. I want to suggest a different opinion also, right? Right? Just for your suggestion. And Alok sir comes from a serious background, I know, right? And hopefully somewhere in the middle of this, there will be an answer. So in telecoms, we were very worried to bring in new tech. And there was an innovator's dilemma happening every time. We were just worried about bringing new tech. What will happen to my 90% revenue, etc., etc. And that eventually didn't allow them to make something as simple as WhatsApp, which is a day's budget of creating, marketing budget of a telecom. And that WhatsApp ate away the entire revenue of telecom for that portion, right? Still they are trying to pay back the debt of that. Elevators were brought in, man in the middle to sit on the stool as an elevator man just to give comfort that elevators are safe, fine, that was a way. So my thinking is this, right? If IOCL is a very critical infrastructure, create a make-believe refinery with nothing in it to blow up, open it to the world to attack it. Let's see what happens. And then you have counter hackathons that are created to protect it. So at least we know, if we don't check the resilience of our roof, right? we'll be sitting duck someday. So I'm just saying that we don't play with fire, but at least create a separate section where we allow people, the best attackers in the world, to come and attack it. Some sort of a sandbox, you know?
I love your enthusiasm, Ankit, and again, as much as I would want to take as I said, there are entry barriers. If you want to create if state is involved, you create a duplicate IOCL. If I'm taking that example,
Sure,
analogy
sure,
forward. You create the state has that intelligence कि ये खेलने के लिए नहीं है. मतलब यहाँ there is no bang for the buck over here. The state has that intelligence. So I'm getting where you're coming from. It works well for IT, honeypots, for that example. And certainly initiated a wonderful project for honeypots. Works well for that. And if I come to the portion of the telecom initiative, it was an innovation. WhatsApp was an innovation. Telecom is one industry where absorption of technology has become a societal pressure. A generation of telecom comes every 10 years, whether it is monetized, it translates into revenues, or it doesn't translate into revenue. I have been a regulator for 3 years, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, so that's slightly close to my heart. You can't take away that every 2030 will be 6G, whether you use it or you don't use it, whether it can be monetized or not, will be 6G. So you will have that cycles coming. But from where you are coming, I take it serves very well for IT. OT, there is a challenge, and it cannot happen without a significant push, synchronized push from all stakeholders. If I make the road safe today for you, someone has to make the car safe. If I make the road and car safe, someone has to make the air safe.
So, sir, I totally agree. What I'm suggesting is that a modular approach has to be given.
Point
We
taken.
can't wait for
Point taken.
the entire
Now, okay. Last, Vinayak, I'll just come on to the pointer question that as the traditional vulnerability management now has been taken over by the exposure management. Now, how would you just advise to the critical infrastructure experts, the leaders, that how this exposure management can reduce their stress at their offices?
Thank you so much. And I think so it has been really, really insightful, right? Getting all the information, how the infrastructure and how the critical infrastructure is being managed. Okay. Also, I concur with the point of sir that yes, certain things cannot be tested. Okay. But there has to be approach to identify the anomaly in it behavior. Okay. And also, I concur with the sir's approach. It needs to be tested. There has to be some kind of honeypot environment. Okay. So that's what, again, if we fall back to the CTM framework, which talks about first have the visibility. Okay. Then see what are the associated risks. And then try to consolidate the risk and do some amount of validation. Validation talks about full-fledged VAPT. Validation also talks about discussing enabling notifications as a part of the compliance as well. Okay. So depending upon the infrastructure, okay, the validation should be done. And again, we don't want those things to happen in future. So there has to be a plan, our process in place, depending upon type of environment, infrastructure, resource that we are looking at. Second, IT and OT are getting merged, okay, apart from those infrastructure which are kind of defense driven, okay, and I appreciate it has to be air gap because that's the backbone of our nation, okay. But for the other environments where we need to increase efficiency, where we need to drive, okay, whatever has been delivered or whatever the purpose a particular an organization or environment is built for, okay. So that's where again the consolidation of all the entities which gives you some amount of information, okay, where is the issue, what can be the issue, what can be done, all this needs to be consolidated in one single place as well.
Thanks, Vinayak, and thank you so much, all the panelists. It's been an honor to host you at this panel discussion. Being personally, it's quite eye opener for me. Even I call myself as a critical infrastructure expert while written multiple RFPs, but I think many of the things that I today learned from all of you, and would love to take this particular discussion forward with in a different perspective as well. But what the summarization from this perspective I have taken, that the critical infrastructure, that you all are taking those initiatives, yet a lot of things had been done, lot of yet to be done, lot of it's a ever evolving procedures which we also all have to be looking in the perspective as an amalgamation with the industry and the private public sector units collaboration for that. A big round of applause for all our panelists, and thank you so much for your contribution, and I'll hand it over to the organizers. Nidhi, head it for your person.
Thank you, sir,
Yeah,
for
just
such
one
an
sec, Nidhi.
exciting and
Yeah,
yes,
Nidhi,
sir.
Nidhi.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Dinanath would like to say something.
It's not just about critical infrastructure. Anything, if you want to implement, then there is a model, PPT model, person, process, technology. So technology alone cannot solve a problem. Person alone cannot, process alone cannot. So you have to give equal importance to all three. Let it be protecting your critical infrastructure, cyber security, or let it be anything. So that's my take on it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Dinanath, for the closing remarks on that part. Appreciate on that. Yeah, sir. Any questions? Yeah, sir. We can. Yeah, sure, sir.
So just 1 minute, the mic is coming to you.
It was compliment for his excellent presentation. I'm just asking a question from on V to X, rather than talking from V to V. Rather, if you're putting, I think you might be using this technology also for fleet management and also the traffic management, isn't so?
Yes.
What my suggestion is, do you use for the anti-collision technology also?
Yes, yes. And in fact, when we use it on a 5G network, what happens is the traditional beacon-based thing, if it's a foggy environment, for example, in colder eras, you can't see the truck till 100 meters or something, right? But in a 5G environment, you can even say 2 kilometers away what thing is from each other, right? 500, because you have a very ring-side view of the entire ecosystem.
What frequency do you use for this?
So what we do is, the network runs on the 5G network cellular bands, which is licensed band. No one can, no one else can.
2.5.
It's licensed band. So no, we range from 700 megahertz all the way till 3.8 gigahertz, 3800
And the
megahertz.
fog will come in between if you use the smaller one.
No, it doesn't matter, because that's the beauty of it, right? So it is not in mesh, but every device is talking directly to the network, and network is orchestrating everything.
Okay, you're going
Yeah.
this card and
It's
coming
vehicle
back.
to network to vehicle, vehicle to network to
Not
traffic
vehicle to
signal.
vehicle?
So it gives you an effect of vehicle to vehicle,
Okay.
but it is the actual data traffic is going like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My second question is, Mr. Kuldeep, how do you use this security aspect in case of control and instrumentation in your thermal power station, in particularly in EMC aspect?
AMC, sorry, come again? EMC. Okay. This is a very big answer to this thing, right? I mean, how do we, can you repeat your question once more? Security board?
How do you take care of the cyber security aspect, particularly in EMC aspect, EMC environment inside the thermal power station or something like that?
Okay. So, if I am understanding...
Question is normally, do you use from point to point in atmosphere from wireless, or do you put a optical fiber also in between these things? Connectivity.
We generally, rely on the wired connections. Okay. But in many cases, when the distance is very, large, in that case, we go for wireless also. Now, as soon as we talk about wireless, there the security comes in. Okay. So, for example, let's suppose we talk about AAQMS system, ambient air quality monitoring system, right? We have some stations where we measure the SOx, NOx emissions from the power plant, and we have to show by law this to CPCB, that what exactly we are doing here. Okay. So for that, we make a network, the dedicated network of the 5-6 devices, the stations you can say. Those stations send the data through wireless mechanism to a central station, and from there, that particular data can be read by CPCB as is required in image. But again, as soon as we talk about OT, we keep it completely separate. This particular network doesn't interact with any kind of other OT systems. But in a larger perspective, if you see, the cybersecurity is a very vast area in case of OT. OT security is, mostly depending upon the segmentation. As many of us have mentioned, still we are maintaining that air-gapped kind of network. But obviously there are 2 or 3 gateways from where we connect to outside world also, right? So for example, from OT to IT on port 5450, you can get the data for decision making, as somebody was mentioning also. So what is the voltage of the line? What is the megawatt generation? That data we definitely need for our management to introduce other things, or for simple decision making also, what we need to generate today, what we need to generate tomorrow, and all that. Okay, we also communicate with the RLDCs, because today regional load dispatch centers who decide the schedule of the power every 15-minute block, that change can come, right? So we need to communicate with them also. We do that through IEC 104. That is the protocol that is being used, yeah, between our system and the RLDC devices. So these 2-3, so like the first case that we are doing OT to IT only, their data diodes are also being used at some places. At some places we are repurposing the firewalls, and we are putting software, firewalls, basically properly configured firewalls which allow that particular communication only. So that way, and within the plant also, different units have different network. In different units also, multiple segmentations at different level, so that the level 2 layer 1 devices, say the physical level sensors, etc., they cannot communicate to layer 3 devices. Say for example, above DCS there might be a historian. They cannot go there directly. So there has to be a layered defense that is created for OT systems. But because of that, problems also come. Somebody was talking about what we can do if we get the data, right? So cyber SOC was also discussed. Specifically, if we talk about OT SOC, the technology of today that is required in our case, at least one side monitoring data has to come outside, right? For that, there are different technologies that can be implemented, but that will also bring a risk that some path at least has now been opened, okay? So there has to be a trade-off or mitigation of the risks that come by this, and based on that, we can further improve upon our decision making as well as security. I hope I answered your question, or
My question was a little different. So
Okay.
Exactly.
Did you
given
mean-
partly a good
Did you mean electromagnetic compatibility by
yeah,
EMC?
electromagnetic compatibility, number
So-
one, I was there. Do you use for the sensor also for a
I'll-
C&I point of view, no?
I will-
Control and instrumentation point of view I'm talking about?
I'll come to that. So let me answer that. So when you say electromagnetic compatibility and cyber, it actually goes into the cyber electromagnetic actions activities. It goes in a totally different domain of CIMA. So that is the domain that we're talking of. Now, if you look at normal EMs, when any communication that is happening on whatever electromagnetic emissions are happening, generally communication protocols are immune to certain noise levels which are of the electromagnetic compatibility that is created. Compatibility is non-interference within the equipment. Various components generating electromagnetic effects, not interfering with each other and the efficacy of communication. This electromagnetic compatibility is generally, the noise level created because of this electromagnetic compatibility is below the spectrum or below the receiver threshold spectrum. So digital communications by default in the normal form, whether in IT or in OT sector, are immune because the receiver threshold is set at that level where EMC does not affect. When you talk of EMP, then there will be mayhem, because then the transmitters, receivers themselves will die down. So then there'll be mayhem. Security in itself will take, that is why I said it goes in a totally different realm of CEMA, cyber electromagnetic activities. That is where it will go. It may not be very contextual right now in media, but I'm open to discuss this. This is something
Yeah, let's take it this offline itself. We are just short of the time.
Now I understood the thing. So basically, in case of power plants, whenever you are talking about, let's suppose, theft of any particular data, through, if something is wireless, right, and it is emitting some kind of electromagnetic waves, you can read it or receive it from a distance, and then based on that you can make out what is going on. If that is the intent, in case of power plants, as somebody said, the area is very, very large. Somebody has to come inside, has to have that kind of thing in place, and then detect what is going on. But as of now, I may be wrong, but as of now, we don't see that. First of all, the wireless penetration is really, really less in case of critical infrastructure. In OT area, I'm talking about. And the sensor power strength is not that much that it can, it can be, say, usefully received from a distance of 20 to 25 meters or even 100 meters, not more than that. So I would say not much of a threat as of now, but yes, it can be. Then in air-gapped areas, people have actually decoded the signals from the hard disk, right? Even from that, people have learned some kind of data. But we have to put our efforts where the problems are more. Value as per risk.
Yeah, thank you, Kuldeep. Yeah, Nidhi, go ahead for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dignitaries,
so
for such an interesting and engaging session at this. Now I request Mr. Anjani Singh, founder and CEO, NextGen Conferences, to present memento to each speaker as a contribution in making this session interesting and meaningful. To starting with our moderator, Mr. Gaurav Ranade. Can we have a round of applause for him, sir? Mr. Alok Shankar Pandeji. To Mr. Vinayak Srivastavji. To Dr. Dinanath Dhinkarja. To Mr. Kuldeep Singh. To Mr. Vivek Pathak ji. To Mr. Ankit Dikshit ji. To Mr. Vijay Jindal ji. Thank you, dignitaries. Can we have a group photograph of the session? Kindly come forward. Thank you, everyone. Now I request you to please be seated and allow us 5 to 10 minutes to prepare the stage for the next session, as we have exciting and senior speakers in the next session. So kindly bear us 10 minutes, please. Thank you.